Hey, welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways, Coyote in the Highlands. I want to talk a little bit more about that this idea that humans live in a state of triage, that human lives have inherently greater or lesser value, and all of this. This is going to go on for a little while, because I got dragged through somebody's muddy universe on this one. It was really weird. One of the things that was brought up is that, this idea that humans exist in a constant state of triage. All of your actions are triage. Like that's the model, the mode of thinking. That's how you go about your life. I can save this, but I can't save this. I must let this die. I'm like, dude. Really? Like, for real? All humans exist in a constant state of triage. No way, dude. Just no way. I'm going to say dude a lot in this one because it's going to be one of my programmatic responses. Ha! No way. There's this, and then there's this idea that we are supposed to save others and the planet and stuff, and that is the only moral thing, is to task ourselves with being the saviors. But we can't save everything, so we have to make the hard decisions and all this total bullshit. And I'm like, no, we live in a world that has done some amazing things in the past couple of decades. We pretty much, by 2018, and I know that we've had this great reset and this idea of things are too good, so we have to make things suck with the whole pandemic and everything. And I get that, we need to increase global poverty, separate the wealthy, do the whole great reset, the whole thing, right? I get that the power structures, power mongers can't have things be too good and too comfortable and too free, because that threatens their specialness and power. But as of 2018, we had pretty much conquered global hunger, global starvation, okay? I'm not going to get into whether or not hunger is useful or good for you or whatever, Western diseases and all that, but starvation exists. We pretty much figured that one out by about 2000. Starvation exists in the world right now only as a tool of oppression. If there's starvation on anything more than the weird individual scale, then that is because of political manipulation. It is purely done out of spite, out of evil, out of terror. Okay? We don't have a structural starvation on the planet at all. I want you to just understand how amazingly awesome that is. But we have people who are programmed to always have a starvation emergency in the back of their head. There's always something wrong and bad and we're fighting the fight against all the evil, and the world is going to collapse and it's all doom and the sky is falling. I just got a raindrop, which is odd, but we have some clouds up there, so the sky is falling. So, no. Starvation in the United States kills, literally a couple handfuls of people every year. It is so rare and so weird that it's a case of people doing something extreme. I've talked about this before. Poverty. Absolute poverty. So there's different levels of poverty, right? And the poverty level descriptions of poverty are very malleable. Someone who is poor in the U.S., who is below the poverty line, probably has one or two cell phones and a car to drive. And, our definition of poverty is really interesting. Whereas in Egypt, the last time I was there, that's just or Morocco, or even Spain, poverty is a very different thing, okay? Like, what you consider poverty is just very different. But the absolute grinding poverty, is something that we have also, pretty much by 2018, had kicked. We had, the end is in sight. It's almost at a point, again, where it's strictly political if you have that level of grinding poverty that kills people, okay? So I respond to the guy in this conversation who's the human beings have different value. This is the core idea here, is that some human beings are worth more than others, and that you have to act with the knowledge that everything you do is going to kill someone, and you're just doing triage, and you have to choose who's more valuable. And this whole mental construct, which is just mind-bogglingly bizarre and utilitarian and materialistic, and just what the hell is going on here? So I point this out. It's like, maybe your view of the ultimate doom here is colored by something other than the facts, because we've done this amazing stuff. We are on the cusp of an amazing change for the better in human living standards. Just amazing. And we've already done nearly miraculous, amazing things over the past couple hundred years. So he's like, well, we have a child death crisis, infant mortality, child mortality, or just amazing global crises, and all because of how you choose to allocate your resources. I'm like, okay. Okay, let's look at that. So he even provides a link that shows, these wonderful histograms that show that child mortality, and this is not just infant, but this is child mortality rates have gone down by over 95% since the 1800s. Globally, that's around the world. Child mortality is so low that it's amazing. It's utterly amazing and miraculous. And since 1990, child mortality rates have gone down by just 70% again there. We're at the end of a bell curve. Okay, a couple million kids die every year in the world. And if you look at the causes of disease, because this is when we were arguing about starvation and resources and stuff. When you look at the causes of disease, the biggest one is pneumonia, which, and there's a couple other early childhood care-based diseases. So, I'm like, well, this is pretty low, and it mostly has to do with energy levels. And the guy's like, no, it's all sanitation and infrastructure. And it's all because we hate poor people. And I'm like, you act like there's this epidemic, there's this huge crisis when we are losing fewer children. I get it. People are programmed, losing one child, if it saves one life, it's worth doing anything. I get all that. But we're losing so few children globally every year to disease that it's just stunning. It's stunning. You should be jumping around, dancing for joy at how well we have done. It is absolutely amazing. It's just stunning. I keep saying that word, but stunning is what it is. It's really amazing. So, but pneumonia is the biggest killer that remains. Pneumonia is like half of those deaths, and that's because of indoor air pollution almost entirely. It's not sanitation. You don't get pneumonia from poor sanitation. You get pneumonia because you have an upper respiratory infection that doesn't go away, and you get pneumonia. That's one of the reasons why you don't go to a hospital if you can avoid it, is because hospitals are the centers for spreading upper respiratory diseases and pneumonia. It used to be, before the pandemic was labeled as the cause of all death, that the biggest killer of geriatric patients in a nursing home was pneumonia from a broken hip. You fall, you break a bone, whatever it is, you go to the hospital. If you get admitted to the hospital and you stay there for a couple of days, you get pneumonia, you die. Pneumonia is a killer, but it's not a sanitation killer. Strictly speaking, it's not a hygiene killer. Hygiene does help. We definitely have less pneumonia floating through than we used to, but we're really not so good at respiratory disease control. We have the wrong models, all this closed air, and we handle it wrong. Anyway, incorrectly. We handle it incorrectly. So I'm like, but the reason the kids are dying of pneumonia is because of indoor air pollution from cooking and heating bad most people don't have. Most people who use wood for heat and cooking don't have Franklin stove models. Okay, the enclosed wood stove with the glass front and the cheery little thing with a separate air intake and a nice chimney stack that draws. That's not how most people who use wood globally are using it. That would be a wonderful way to increase the quality of the air and everything. If you want to work on a project, properly built wood stoves for the world would actually be a really good one. Wood being the basis of renewable energy, if you do it right, and that's another one that I get some grief on. But it's indoor air pollution. That's what it is. Cheap energy solves that, and cheap energy is something that we are prevented from having by the powers that be, because the powers that be want to maintain their power over all other factors. That's what's important to them. Whew. So there we go. And this whole thing, this whole day got really weird, because every time I would say, yes, I value human lives equally, like, they'd come up with some other crazy extreme example to try to play a gotcha game on me. You don't really believe that. What if this person has one day left to live? What if you have the power to save the life of this person with cancer for one day, so they live one extra day, or you can save the life of this person who's going to live for 80 more years and do all these great things and have a wonderful, wonderful life. And I'm like, there's nothing there, because one, I can't predict the future of someone. I can't say, oh, you're going to have a wonderful life. It's my power as your God to determine that for you. That's what? And the second thing is, I don't know. What is the value of experience of that one day for that cancer patient? What is the value of experience for the 80 years for that other person? I don't know. But the human lives are of equal value. The human lives are both infinitely unique and infinitely valuable. And I keep coming back to that, and people keep trying to drag me away from it and be like, well, what about this situation with this value and this situation? You saved this many people, and everything you do is triage, and everything you do kills people. And I'm like, do you live like this? Do you really, really live like this? Can you live like that? That is, and this, as difficult, as hard as it is for me to wrap my head around this might be the key to understanding the doom and gloom environmentalists, the people who think that everything about civilization is a collapse in the making and can't see any positives, while they play on their cell phones, drinking their lattes, complaining about the world. There's obviously some issues there, but these people really believe this, and they really go through life with this much angst and horror programming. And maybe the environmentalist movement needs some positivity training. Whew. Stay sideways.